Okay, I'm Taylor St. Martin, and this is my informative speech audience. Have you ever went to grab your favorite pair of shoes and realized they had a big hole in the side of them? Annoyed you probably threw them away or made them your newest yard work shoe? What if your favorite shoe had intentional holes? Crocs have 13 fully functional holes for airflow, ventilation, and decoration. When you think of Crocs, what kind of events do you think of? Maybe grocery shopping, boating, or an occasional work day. Since 2004, Crocs has sold 103 million pairs of shoes. That is because they are the most versatile shoe on the market. I personally like Crocs because of their fun colors and designs. I own 9 pairs myself and hope to grow my collection more in the future. They are the most recognizable shoe on the market, but how did they come to be? In 2004, 3 friends, Scott Siemens, Lyndon Hansen, and George Bodebecker Jr., were on a sailing trip in the Caribbean. As they stopped, they decided to go get some lunch and shop along the coast. While shopping, they were stopped by a bright yellow sign that said, "Foam Creations, come on in." As they walked in, they were greeted by a nice man who said that he owned the place and to ask any questions that they may have. They began looking around and were fascinated by the shoe. They were unlike any shoes they had ever seen before. Were they rubber or were they plastic? The men had no idea. They began talking to the man at the counter and, asked him all their questions. The man said that the shoes were made with the Croslite technology and were actually made of closed-cell resin. They were neither rubber nor plastic. By the end of 2004, the 3 men bought the company and all the rights to the Croslite technology. At the end of 2004, they decided that they should start selling their shoes. They went to a Fort Lauderdale boat show that they had always gone to for years, but this time it was a little bit different. They came with shoes, their shoes. The first prototype that they brought was called the Beach. It's a lot like the classic clog today, and they thought maybe they would sell a single pair or enough to cover their lunch. But by the end of the day, they had sold all 200 pairs that they brought with them. In 2006, after 2 years of selling, the men decided that they wanted to make the name more original. They wanted to change it from Foam Creations to something else. They began arguing and disputing and couldn't come up with a name. They came up with silly names like the Holy Shoe, but in the end, they could not find anything. Until one day, one of the men, Lyndon Hansen, came up with the idea, Crocs. Because like the crocodile, they work both in the land and sea. At the end of 2006, they also bought the brand Jibbitz. The idea behind the Jibbitz was so the shoes would be more versatile. You could cover up all the holes of the shoes and, then you could wear them in the winter because no air would flow through the shoes. Or you could cover up less of the holes in the summer and more air would flow through. They bought this brand for $20 million. People thought that after the Jibbitz, they stopped progressing, but to this day, they're still designing more and more shoes. In 2020, they started branding with large companies and influencers to make different brands of shoes for limited amounts of times. For example, they made Lightning McQueen Crocs and KFC Crocs. Now that we've learned about the history behind the Crocs, let's talk about the heart behind the company. There's an organization called Crocs Cares from Crocs that essentially gives Crocs to less economically developed countries and people in the US who don't have shoes. When Croc buyers buy a pair of shoes, they know that a percentage of their money is going towards this organization, which makes them feel good. Also, when the pandemic started in 2020, they gave 10,000 pairs of shoes to healthcare workers who were working long days and long shifts helping others. They also realized that their packaging has a lot of plastic, which will in turn go into the landfill. They wanted to change this, so by changing their packaging recently, they will save a prospective 640,000 pounds of waste in the next 100 years. As Crocs have become more and more popular, the doctors have started looking into them. They found that they are lightweight and comfortable and an awesome shoe for boating, grocery shopping, and occasional work days. That is because they are lightweight and comfortable. But doctors have found that people who wear Crocs for long term may get tendonitis or rough calluses. So doctors do not recommend Crocs for long-term use. All in all, Crocs has had a fascinating history with their generosity and versatility. I'm interested to see what comes in the years following. From the first pair of Crocs to the high fashion Crocs snow boots to Crocs slide, Crocs seems to never stop progressing. They're one of the top selling brands in the US. The next time you find yourself annoyed by those no good tennis shoes, holes in your tennis shoes, just remember that Crocs have 13. And here are my citations. Bawafemi Adebayo, a physiotherapist, has wrote, "Are Crocs good for your feet? This article, published to upstep.com, talks about the concerns with wearing Crocs for long term. On January 8th, here's my second one. On January 18th, 2022, Katie Dupere published the article 9 Interesting Facts About the History and Revenue of Crocs. This was published to footwearnews.com. And here's my third one. Paul Johnson, a potential Croc buyer, found himself annoyed with no Croc description, so he decided to publish his own. It was entitled, Listing 11 Types of Crocs with Explanation. He published this to workwearcommand.com. And that's my speech. Thank you for listening, and are there any questions? Okay, perfect.